Welcome, everyone, to the first Talking Movies podcast. On this episode, we talk about the future of the MCU and how it changed movies. This was not a planned podcast. As you will see by the ending, I just decided to record a conversation me and my brother were having about all these different topics. So it's not as organized as I would like it to be, but this is how the podcast is going to go. We're going to pick a topic. The main topic in this one would be the MCU and how it basically changed the landscape of uh, basically the entire industry when it comes to blockbusters, and we really dig deep into that later on in the podcast. So I have timestamps down below in the description if you want to skip straight to that. We talk about a range of different topics from sports, connecting it to movies, connecting to a bunch of different things. But this is the podcast. We are talking movies, and like I said, we're just going to jump straight into it. It cut off the beginning of the conversation since I just randomly decided to start recording. So we basically start off talking about how Jurassic Park changed CGI and the future of the movies through CGI. Avatar changed how people use 3D. That was a big thing. It changed everything. So we start off the conversation talking about how the MCU changed the landscape of movies in terms of cinematic universes and the benefits of that, and also the downsides of that. So here's the podcast, guys. Like I said, timestamps down below if you want to skip to any topics. If you have anything to add to the conversation, please leave it in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But without further ado, here is the first episode of Talking Movies. Enjoy.
CGI. I mean, Star Wars. It's
Yeah.
easy. Jurassic. Like they changed the game. Avatar. They changed the game with 3D.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just think that the MCU with the cinematic universe, I think, yes, it changed the game to where every studio wants what the MCU has, making a big
But they
cinematic
can't. But no
universe.
one can do it.
No,
That's what
not
makes them
that.
so
I
great.
think it makes it problematic to where everybody is trying to a point where you can't just have. This is why I like the
Yeah.
Joker thing so much because it's an Elseworld type thing. It's a standalone. Why can't
It
a
can hurt
movie
it.
just stand alone on its own
Right.
merits and just be a
Right.
good film on its own
Yeah.
instead of
It can.
having the
It can
crutch
hurt
of a
things.
cinematic universe?
Yeah. Exactly. Like it. Yeah. It can hurt things.
I think
But at the
overall,
same time, it was so big that everyone tried to copy them.
I think it's a great thing that happened, but it threw a wrench in how blockbusters are made.
Hmm. Yeah.
It
I
just threw
agree.
everything out of whack, and now Star
Right.
Wars tried and failed. The
Right.
DCEU is trying and failing, even though I think they
And
kind
they're
of found a
famous
footing.
for bad reasons.
Yeah, the Dark
You look at
Universe
you look at
started and stopped
Transformers.
with one movie.
Think about Transformers. They're famous in a bad reason
Well,
because they're the
Transformers is
blockbuster
not.
movie that will make money no matter what, no matter how bad it is.
See, but Transformers is not a cinematic universe. It's a
No,
franchise.
no, I'm not talking about a cinematic universe. I'm just saying that in general, they've changed it to where blockbusters have big names, have big trailers, have big titles, but doesn't necessarily need to be good
But I think that's also the
because they will
problem with
always make money.
I think that's the problem with blockbusters in general, though, like big titles, to where big title movies own the box office, and it's like when everybody goes sees these huge event movies, like a Transformers movie, Hollywood thinks, okay, we need to make more of these because it's all about money,
Hmm.
and so when you have stuff like Pirates of the Caribbean and Transformers, but you also have stuff that works, like the Dark
Like
Knight
the
trilogy, like
MCU.
the MCU, even the DCU to some extent at first. You have these big franchises that make money, and they just make it because they feel like they have to. It's like Paramount is looking for some big franchise. Star Trek isn't doing it for them, so they have Transformers. They're making this whole a bunch of toy
Hmm.
franchises like Transformers, and then the Power Rangers, and then the GI Joe, and throwing them all in this one cinematic universe, which hasn't started yet. But I feel like the whole cinematic universe thing just kind of made it to where it feels obligated to have something like that, which I think could be a problem.
Yeah.
I just love the Joker idea. Just have why can't a movie just stand alone? Why
Right.
does it have to be a part of something bigger? Why can't it stand alone on its own 2 feet and be able
Hmm.
to breathe? Same thing like
Yeah.
Venom doesn't need Spider-Man, but obviously they're trying to make a cinematic
Yeah.
universe,
You
so
know
it's
what?
not
What will
the
also
best
change
example.
everything? The first movie that makes the first kind of like blockbuster movie that gets Best Picture. That's gonna change everything. That movie right
I
there,
think that's a whole
whatever
different
that movie will
conversation.
be, huh?
I think that's a whole different conversation. I don't think that'll ever happen because that blockbuster, what it would need is it would need some sort of social and more
But what I,
thematic
It could, but
tones
here's the
to it.
thing. Think about this. When our generation, right, reaches the older generation, like reaches that age where they're the ones vote. We're the
When the
ones voting,
Academy starts
right?
putting in more people, which they are, but
But things are
in like
gonna
10
but there's
years,
gonna
say.
be in one day there's gonna be a movie where it's like top 5 in box office and it'll win Best Picture.
Here's the thing, though.
And
I
all of
don't.
a sudden you're gonna start seeing a run on those because that's just how it's going to be voted.
Mhm.
Like it's just that movie is going to change whatever movie that will be the first to do it. It's going to be famous and it's going to change how the Oscars work, how everything works because it was so big that not only did it beat almost everything and was a top maybe top 3 in box office, but it won Best Picture.
Yeah.
And so it's going to change how movies are made, how blockbusters are made, how even the smaller individual movies are made. You know what I mean? Like it's going to
Yeah.
change everything.
But what I'd also
That's what I'm talking
say,
about. Like there's certain movies where it's going to be a once in a generation type movie where it's so big that it does change how things work.
I do think, like, relative to like the budget, Get Out was one of those where it made a ridiculous amount of money for the tiny budget it had, and it
Right.
got the Best Picture nominated. It won for Best Screenplay. But I will
Well,
also
yeah,
say that
but
there's no MCU movie that I think deserved a Best Picture nomination to this point. If I were the Academy, if I were making the votes, not thinking of how they think, I don't think any of the MCU movies deserve a spot. Maybe Winter Soldier gets closest, but if you think about it, all the greatest comic book movies are the ones that don't feel like comic book movies, like a Dark Knight, like a Logan.
right,
And there's very few of those and very far between to where I don't know when the next one of those is going to happen.
right. But no,
I don't
but
think the
what
MCU can reach that because they're
well, I'm not
handcuffed
saying
to
it's
their
going to be the
franchise.
MCU. I'm not
Yeah,
saying it's going to be the MCU. I'm just saying that,
when it
and I'm not even
happens.
saying that it's going to be a superhero movie. I'm just saying that it could be some like Avatar. Think about it.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, Avatar probably should have won Best Picture that
It
year.
was nominated, right?
It was nominated, but like so like
I
that's
think
the
it
last. But
won.
see, that's think about it. There's it's kind of a I would say once every 10 years there's a movie or there's a player, right? It's the same thing in everything where once a generation that something big happens.
Hmm.
This generation was MCU, Infinity War, right? Or maybe you can say Star Wars. It's
Well, I would
that
also say
generation,
it's a genre because the comic book movie, the superhero movie, is a genre now at this
right?
point. Like westerns were back way,
Right,
when westerns were really popular.
right,
Superhero movies are going to decline
right.
eventually. It's going to
Exactly,
phase out,
exactly. What
and
I'm
the
you're
new
right.
one's going to fade in.
But the new ones, whatever that is, there's gonna be one movie that causes it.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, like I would credit either X Men or the first. I'd actually credit the first Spider Man movie to starting all of this. Or no, maybe
I wouldn't even say that. I would say the first Avengers movie
no, because
because no,
you
because
wouldn't
think about
have
it.
Iron Man without an X or like the first movie to ever cross $100 million opening weekend was Spider Man. That's the one that kicked off everything. That's
Well,
why
yeah,
X
but
Men
what I'm
2 is so
saying,
popular. That's
yeah,
why
and
you
yeah,
have
those
Avengers.
are what's kicked it off. But what I'm saying is what changed everything.
I'll say that changed it in a different way to where
Because if the Avengers wasn't good, we wouldn't be in what we're in, right?
well, no, because I think that more
Because
focuses on the
Avengers,
cinematic universe type thing. I
no,
think
yeah,
Spider
but
Man is what brought the genre to prominence, just because that was
no,
the biggest movie of all
I
time
disagree with
at the
that.
time.
At the time, it was the biggest, yeah, and they
It was
kind of started it.
unprecedented.
They got the ball rolling. But what I'm saying is, there was one movie. There's one movie, or maybe there's one or two that completely changed everything. That was Avengers.
I think Avengers changed the blockbuster. I don't think it made the genre popular. I think the genre became popular before that. But yeah, I would agree. Like it changed the blockbusters and
I
it
don't
changed the
know.
cinematic universe. It changed the studio's
Because
mentality
think
when it
about
comes to those type of
how
movies.
much money really. I mean, yeah, they were like the highest
Because Avengers was the first
superhero
one to break
movies.
200 million opening weekend. So like it's the same case. Yeah, both of them were big, like both of them were
But
very
it did it.
influential
But
to
it
the
did it
genre.
in other. What I'm saying is, it changed. It didn't. It wasn't just a record breaking as far as box office. It was
Hmm.
doing something that no other.
That's why I think the
It
cinematic.
was the first kind of its movie.
Yeah, the cinematic universe angle is definitely what it started for sure, but I would still say
I would
that
if you're
Spider-Man
marking.
put Spider-Man put superhero
Okay,
movies on the
but
map.
here's another point.
Avengers
Here's another
elevated
point.
it.
Think about the gap between that. It's 10 years.
No, because you had the Dark Knight trilogy within those 10 years. You had the X-Men movies, which were blowing up at that time, and then you also had the
Why?
stinkers like
Why no?
Elektra,
But think
like
about
Catwoman.
no. What, Brad? I don't think you get what I'm saying. There's in okay. See, you don't. Okay,
I
I'm
see
gonna
what you're
try.
trying to say.
I'm gonna
I
try
just
and
still
say.
think it started
I'm gonna
before
try and
that.
give you a sports analogy
Sports
here.
analogy.
Okay.
Okay.
In the NBA. Okay. Do you know who Michael Jordan is?
I do know who Michael Jordan is.
Okay.
Space
Do you know
Jam.
who? Okay. Oh my God. Okay. Do you know who LeBron James is?
I do know who LeBron James is. Space Jam too.
Right, but as basketball players, you know them, right? You would have
Yes.
known them before the movie. Okay.
You know Space Jam 2 is coming out though,
Okay.
right?
Now, yeah.
Ryan
Now,
Coogler
and I love
producing,
it,
so
and
yeah,
it's great.
awesome. Bugs Bunny is back.
Okay. Do you know who Larry Bird is?
Yes, I've heard of Larry Bird.
Do you know who he played for?
He played for Miami, right? Or no,
Nope.
did he play for Lakers?
Nope.
Really?
Celtics.
Celtics.
So here's
okay.
the thing. Okay, this okay. Do you know who Russell Westbrook is?
No, I've heard the name. I don't know though. If you ask me, what
Okay.
team.
Do you know who Kevin Durant is?
Yes, Kevin Durant played for the Lakers,
Okay.
right?
No.
Or am I wrong there?
Golden
They're
State.
Miami. Golden State. Gosh darn it, same thing.
Okay. Do you know who Kobe Bryant is?
Obviously, yeah. That one's Lakers.
You know who Shaq is?
Shaq, yes.
Okay. So here's the thing.
Wasn't
I
Shaq in
named.
that one movie with the what's her face? The
He's been in a lot of movies.
Trainwreck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that was LeBron was in
Was
Trainwreck.
LeBron in Trainwreck?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
What was
But
Shaq in?
Shaq was in Grown Ups too.
Oh, okay.
Shaq was in. He was in a lot of movies. Like
Mhm.
it's hard to think about. But anyways, so what I gave you was, I gave you once in a generation type players, right? And you know who they were. This is a perfect example because you're not a sports fan.
Mhm.
You knew who they were because they were so big, right? Think about it. They were so big that you even knew who they were,
Yeah.
right? But then, man, but think about this. Okay, Michael Jordan and LeBron James, they're two best players to ever play the game. You knew who they were, right?
Mhm.
Kobe Bryant, big name, right? Huge name, right?
Mhm.
Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, even Kevin Durant, even Russell Westbrook. You know those guys are top players, top 5 players when they played,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? They were top 5. They're all the greatest to ever play. One of the greatest, right? But there's a difference between one of the greats and the greats that change everything. Michael Jordan changed the game of basketball.
Mhm.
LeBron James changed the game of basketball. Does that make sense?
All right. So here's what I'd say. Superman, the original Superman, '78 Superman would be
That's a big one.
Would be the Michael Jordan.
Exactly.
Avengers, you're saying would be
Avengers would be a Michael Jordan, a LeBron James, right?
okay. Everything
Does
like,
that make
even
sense?
decade wise, Superman is the one that
Exactly.
started it all. You can say
That's what I'm saying. Once in a generation
Yeah.
type of movie, type of
Mhm.
player. Like
I do
you know
think
who
Spider-Man's
Peyton-
up there. I don't think you're giving Spider-Man enough credit. I think it would
Okay.
be third to Avengers and Superman.
Okay. But okay, so that actually made it easier to explain to you
Just
because you're
'cause,
not
yeah.
a sports fan.
Well, also just because when
Okay, so, like, think about a
superhero
person
movies
who
at that
doesn't watch
time.
movies.
If you think about superhero movies at that time, though, when Spider-Man came out, that's when you had the Batman and Robins and the Batman Forevers and the
Yeah.
Superman Quest for
That's
Peace and all those crappy movies. Spider-Man saved
Well,
the genre.
those okay. I got a good okay. Here's how you look at Spider-Man. All those movies that you named, those were kind of targeted towards kids. Even though Spider-Man was
They were
targeted
campy.
towards
They were not
They
towards
were
kids. They
campy.
were towards the comic book at the time, where because
right.
the comics were
But
super dark at
Spider-Man,
first, and they
but
made it
think
kid
about it,
friendly.
Spider-Man
'cause
was a
people got
little
mad.
bit more serious. It was still campy,
It was still campy, yes, but
but it
Spider-Man
was a little,
2.
but it was a little bit more, but it was a little bit more serious.
And then you got the Dark
Right.
Knight. You got
And then
Batman
Dark Knight,
Begins in
which
2005.
also, but think about those. Those are like greats, but not changing everything. Not so big. Like think about you ask someone who has no idea about movies.
What
and you
about
ask
what
them,
about the Dark
Do
Knight?
you know
then?
what the Avengers is? Yes, obvious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Dark Knight, I think, to an extent, because you're bringing in darker movies. Without the Dark Knight, do you think you get?
I don't
even
think you'd
some
have a
darker-
gritty DCEU.
Right.
Which the
well,
Dark
do you-
Knight is probably the downfall of the DCU if you're looking at it
Probably.
like that. You know, how
Probably,
they
but
tried to mimic it with Man of Steel. I
right.
think you had some success.
I got
People
one.
would say not.
Deadpool.
Deadpool.
Deadpool. Deadpool is a once in a generation thing that
You wouldn't have
that
Logan without Deadpool.
exactly.
And Logan is my
Exactly.
second favorite comic
So
book movie of all time.
without the first Avengers movie, if the first Avengers movie was bad, right? We wouldn't have any of this.
If you didn't
But
have
because
Avengers,
it was
you would not have Justice League, and Justice League is an atrocity.
well, right, it creates but again, it creates good, it creates bad.
Yeah.
You know, if it wasn't
Avengers
for
is to
Michael,
blame
if it
for all
wasn't for
this.
LeBron James, we wouldn't have superstars changing teams all over the place. Because he's
People
the
were
one.
freaking out. People were burning his jersey when he went from what was the team?
He went from Cleveland to Miami.
Yes.
And here's the thing: the kicker is he's
I even
from
knew
the
about
kick.
that.
Well, the kicker is he's from Cleveland,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he went and joined. He joined two other star players. He went and joined them.
Mm-hmm.
And some people said because he couldn't win by himself, right? But what that did was, if he didn't do that, Kevin Durant would have gone from the Thunder to Golden State and created a super team. Because now what's currently happening is the Warriors have 5, not just all-star type, but like 5 superstars on one team.
Mm-hmm.
Never been done before. That doesn't happen without LeBron James.
So I would say LeBron James is the Avengers in this metaphor or analogy. And I would say Superman would be the Michael Jordan.
Yeah, I agree. Because LeBron caused chaos, and he caused good things to happen, but he also caused kind of bad things to happen.
And I would say, like, same thing with Spider-Man. Without Spider-Man, without resurging the genre, you wouldn't have had a Batman Begins and a Dark Knight, which in turn, you wouldn't have had an Avengers. You know, a more serious take on a superhero movie, even though it was still humorous and all of that. And then you got Avengers, which is the one that changed the game. So all led up to there. It all was all dominoes, but it was the Avengers that made it.
Yeah. But also think about this, Marvel didn't really add in the super comedic stuff until like Iron Man 3.
Yeah. Which is why I think if people go back and look at that movie, it has the current Marvel humor that we have now.
Yeah.
All started from Iron Man 3, which is why I've loved it ever since it came out.
And see, that's the thing is, I don't think you're my problem with Iron Man 3 isn't that it was I think it was a good movie. I just didn't like the end.
Yeah.
And I didn't like Pepper's role in that. That's the only, but other than that, it was great. You know what I mean? So like, but anyways, so like that's what I mean when I'm saying once in a generation. It changes more than just, like, you know, like the first Spider-Man or even the Dark Knight. Like it changed some things, but it didn't change. It wasn't on such a huge scale.
I do think the Dark Knight changed a lot more than you think. Just how dark things became after that.
Right. Exactly.
How much more serious and how it showed that a superhero movie can be more than just, you know, a silly, fun, you know.
I think
it's a crime thriller. That's what The Dark Knight is. It's not a comic book movie. It's a crime thriller with the Joker and the Batman in it.
Right.
Which is also why Logan is so good. It's a sci-fi western that just happens to have a guy with claws and the daughter that's also even probably more violent with claws. It's like where you can really, I think The Dark Knight is what set the precedent where you can have something more than it, and it blends it blurs the lines between like something like I don't know, Oscar movie like Get Out, say, or you know, a superhero
But see,
movie.
here's the difference: is that not everyone tried copying them. Some tried to copy them, and some worked.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing that drove it all, though. It's just money. Avengers was a money-making machine. Same thing with Spider-Man. You can say money. Honestly, you can say money was the thing that started this all. Because if Spider-Man didn't crack $100 million, they wouldn't start making all these blockbusters like they do today, especially with superheroes.
Yeah,
but
I also think that
200 million. Now you have the cinematic universe thing that everybody's trying to replicate, and no one seems to be able to do.
Yeah. Well, I also think though that money affects everything.
Money's a driving force.
Why
you can't argue with that. Money is the driving force between anything.
Even in sports.
Yeah.
But it's the opposite. In sports, the players started taking less money to make super teams.
Okay.
So it's different. Like LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh, when they joined up in Miami, they all took pay cuts. Golden State, they have 5 superstars on their team, and they all take pay cuts.
Okay.
Like huge, like tens of millions of dollars pay cuts. You know what I mean? So like, because there's a cap. You know, you can't have a team. You know, you can only spend
5 all-stars without having some sort of compromise.
Right, and so that means they're not getting the money that they would with any other team.
Okay, let me ask you
But money is
this.
a driving force in everything.
Yeah, let me ask you
That's why I
this.
hate money.
Is Avengers Infinity War one of those movies?
Of what?
One of those, like,
That changes
defining, that
everything?
changes everything? Because I don't think it is.
I would say
I would say
it's
it's
kind
more in
of
the line of Spider-Man, right?
I was just gonna say it's like a pinpoint
Okay.
because remember because now Avengers 4 might be different,
Mm-hmm.
but you got to remember both these movies are changing the MCU.
Yeah.
So
Okay, well, what
it's
about this
it's
then?
changing a huge thing within it. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
changing the huge thing within. So it's not really changing everything around it. It's just changing the one big thing that changed everything.
All right, let me give you a hypothetical situation here, okay?
Okay.
If his, I'm thinking more towards like Black Panther and Captain Marvel. I think they have the opportunity to change the movie landscape, and if Black Panther gets a Best Picture nomination, let's just say
hmm
it does, do you think that would change? Do you think that'd be significant enough to change
I
that?
think I think we start. Are you talking about on a social
On a
aspect?
social aspect, yes.
Because I think yes, I think what we're gonna start
I
to
think Black
see
Panther
is
will
a lot
change
more.
movies in general.
Exactly. We're gonna
Like
start
you
seeing
had
a lot
Moonlight win a
more.
couple of years ago. You had
hmm
Get Out win, and now if
But that's
Black Panther
also
gets nominated, that's not only a huge blockbuster, which would be the first comic book movie to ever be nominated for Best Picture, because Dark
hmm
Knight was so shamelessly snubbed all those years
right.
ago. But and then just the social implications that that would have, I think that would, if that did get nominated, I think that would be the next one.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
like
and
that's what's
here's
my
the
next
thing.
question. What do you think will be the next movie to change everything like that? If you're to predict, would it be a Captain Marvel? Would it be an
I
Avengers
think
4?
Captain Marvel has a chance because now what we're gonna start seeing, and you know what? Look who's charging it, Marvel,
Mm-hmm.
MCU, the big right. So
Yeah.
it's this all happened because Avengers was good, and it created something so big that now parts of it, pieces of it, that was originally because of that original movie, is now changing everything else, and it's spreading. It's spreading like wildfire, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you got yeah, you're gonna start seeing more women superheroes, right? You're gonna start seeing more African American, not just in superhero movies in
In
general,
general, there's
but
like,
exactly just in every movie, right?
mm-hmm.
Because think about it, in every movie you have, and think about like the older movies, you have the main character is white and he's male,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have his love interest, which is a girl, and then you may have his friend who may be Mexican or he may be African American, or you know what I mean? He
Yeah,
has that, or
it'd
or
always
there's
be a
just
side character. It'd never be a lead. But when you have a movie
exactly. But
like,
now it's different,
mm-hmm.
and that's not just the movie changing. That's just socially in
That's
the
just the
world what's
industry
happening.
changing and the world, moving towards
hmm
something that should have been,
Yeah. Like, okay, here's one. What do you think about Kaepernick?
Kaepernick. What are you talking about here?
The kneeling of the anthem.
Oh, okay. We're getting
Because
serious here.
do you know who Colin Kaepernick
Yes, I
is?
do know who Colin
He's the
Kaepernick
one that
is.
started it
And
all.
then the whole Nike situation, which I think is absolutely ridiculous that people are like boycotting Nike and lighting their shoes on fire, which I actually think that's
Okay, so
hilarious. They're
Here's the
buying
thing.
shoes just to light it on fire. I
What's
don't
your
think that's a problem. I
what's your
think
stand on kneeling?
on kneeling,
Yeah.
my stance is because he's not protesting. Okay, 'cause I don't dig too much into this, but from what I understand, he's more so protesting police brutality, right? He's
Mm-hmm.
not protesting the flag. He's not protesting the country.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he's
Mm-hmm.
doing. He's protesting police
He's using it
brutality.
as a platform.
Yes, and kneeling is a respectful gesture, isn't it? Don't you
Yes.
kneel before a queen or
So
like to get knighted?
So
In
check this out. So check this out. Originally, the first time he ever did it, he sat,
okay,
and so it obviously got a lot of attention.
I can understand that.
He met with the man, maybe a Navy SEAL. He met with someone, and the guy was like, "I think we would appreciate it if you instead of sitting, you were to kneel."
hmm I think I've heard from
A
one.
Navy
Yeah,
SEAL asked him to kneel.
I've heard from some people who are in the military just on Twitter. I remember seeing this one tweet where it's like, we are fighting as the military. We are fighting for the right for our citizens to be able to protest,
hmm
like kneeling, like Kaepernick.
hmm
We are
hmm
fighting for that choice. They're not protesting the
Right.
military. They're protesting or like the military is fighting for the right to be able to do
Right.
that. And if you take that
Okay.
away, it's not.
So here's the thing. Now all of a sudden we're starting to see other players do certain, what I mean, other
Hmm.
players followed him. But okay, so this is where it's going to connect back to the movies is what started it all, but also what what was so big that it changed kind of everything, right? So in this sense, Kaepernick was kind of the Spider-Man, but he also was the Avengers because it blew up because of him. You know what I mean?
Hmm. I feel like it'd be more of a Black Panther issue because I think Black Panther is more significant than a Spider-Man.
Well, yes, but when we look back, okay, so in 20 years, when we
Hmm.
look back into all of this, we're not going to remember that necessarily the other players. I mean, we'll remember some of
We'll
them
remember Kaepernick because of what he did. Is that what you're trying to say?
because he was the one that
Because
started it. He
yeah,
was the big one,
he was the one
right?
who took a
So,
stance.
right. So in 50 years, when we're looking at the Marvel movies, what are you going to kind of talk about the most? Avengers, the first
Hmm.
Avengers.
I would say
You,
Infinity
you,
War would be up there.
and
Black
Infinity
Panther would be
War,
up there.
possibly Avengers 4, Black
Captain
Panther,
Marvel.
Captain Marvel, because they all started something.
Hmm.
But the first two that came to our minds was Avengers.
Hmm. Yes.
That first one. And I mean, you could even say Dark Knight, but I'm curious in 50 years we might not unless it changes. But again, at this point we're not seeing a whole bunch of dark movies, dark superhero movies, right? If we were seeing a whole bunch of dark movies,
Well, here's the thing.
then
Okay, so you're saying
that movie
Avengers
would get more
started something
credit.
that couldn't be replicated. The Dark Knight
Hmm.
started something that could not be replicated. You've had a
But it
Logan.
hasn't been
That
tried a
was
lot either.
when did the Dark Knight come out? It came out in 2008. Logan came out in 2017. It
Yes.
took 9 years to get something even close.
But no one else was trying. That's the thing.
Hmm.
Think about
No, I
this with
think people were
Avengers.
trying. You have
Well,
Fans Four Stick,
kinda.
who tried to be dark and gritty, be the Dark Knight of Fantastic Four. You have movies like that. You have Man of Steel, who
Okay.
tried to be the Dark Knight for Superman.
From the
They
but from the
tried
same
and they
from the
failed.
same studio.
That is, yeah, the same studio, but Fans Four Stick was not the same studio.
I don't think right, right. But think about Marvel. Every other studio tried to bring their own cinematic universe.
Yes,
Does that make
even
sense?
toy lines. But yeah,
They
I
they
will
didn't
say yeah.
they didn't affect just their own studio. They affected every studio in the world because
Mhm.
everyone wanted to be like them.
I would say yes. Avengers affected in that aspect. I think the Dark Knight affected it more so
They affected in
in
two
a
different ways.
in a
One's a
different
bigger
way.
scale.
One is a
One's a
larger
bigger
scale, but one of it
Right.
is a more I don't know how to describe it.
But see, what's funny is the larger scale one has more failure around it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's
Just
because
less try to like more will try to imitate the one that is more
Right.
prominent, the more
Right.
money making, the more
Right.
the bigger one that is on
And it's
everybody's
funny.
minds.
It's funny because I
The more
I truly
successful.
believe this. I do think history repeats itself, and I think we're seeing a lot of it. It
Mhm.
kind of history does repeat itself, and
Well, I think
we're
there's a
always
cycle
gonna
to
have
things.
there's this yeah, right.
It's
And
like
so we're
even
always
horror
gonna have these
movies.
things.
Horror movies took a dip, and right now horror
Mhm.
movies are very prominent, which is
Right.
amazing.
And you know what's taking a dip right now is comedies.
Comedies too, yeah. I think comedies have had a resurgence. There's been a lot of good comedies this year,
Mhm.
honestly, like Blockers, Game Night.
But I also think in general too, the talent in the world is so much better.
Hmm.
It's not just like in sports. Oh my God, the amount of talent that there is, it's unbelievable.
All right, here's why. Okay, here's why I would say that is, and I'll use a movie metaphor instead of using sports. I'll use movies to explain why I think that might be the case.
Everyone's more
So,
skilled.
no, not just that. There are more movies being made in this decade than any other decade. There are more
Okay.
sports, there are more teams, there are more players trying to get into those sports than there has ever
Mhm.
been before, giving more of a
Right.
chance. It's like people
Right.
say, oh, we're losing originality in film. We're getting more original films today than ever before.
Mhm.
And yeah,
Right.
maybe they are not seen by millions of people making millions of dollars.
Because the blockbusters aren't the originals.
Yeah. But like that's my argument because I was in my film class and someone said something about originality in film and I wanted to argue about it. I didn't want to
Yeah.
it wasn't part of the conversation. But there are more movies being made today than ever before.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that
and
means
it's
there's
funny
more
because-
originality. There's more everything.
Yeah.
You just need to find it.
Right. Well, that it's funny because in sports, you have even the older generation. They're like back in my day, like
Mhm.
those guys would have beat this current group. They were tougher, blah blah blah. Like a lot of people say that, especially in basketball. Like some of the older players that are like in their 60s, 70s now, they're like my generation was way tougher than this generation. You hear that a lot,
Hmm.
right? That this generation is softer, but you know what? They're a whole lot more skilled. They're a
Yeah.
whole lot more skilled.
Well, I think
They're
society in
way more
general has
talent.
changed to where, yeah, you don't need to be tough like that. Like technology has taken a
Right. You have to be
standpoint where,
skilled,
yeah. And I
and
think that would also change in the future
yeah.
too. Who knows what will
and
happen?
who knows what will happen? But I think there's also so much more talent
Hmm.
that it's the competition to get into anything. Like think of YouTube too. You know what I mean? Just in 10 years, how much has changed and how
Just
much
how
harder it is. You
not
have
just
to be
YouTube, but
special. You have
YouTube
to
has grown
you
to a
have to
point
be
where
special.
TV, if you're thinking about like everything comes in like cycles, right?
Hmm.
I would say because I heard, I'm not sure what the numbers are, but baseball I feel like is fading as a sport. Is it in terms of
Popularity wise,
popularity? It's like I think
yes.
everything comes in loose. Do you think there will ever be a time when baseball becomes obsolete and it's not a game widely played and widely loved, or football, or like the
Um,
superhero movies? They're gonna fade out at one point in
well, here's the
popularity.
thing with sports. I don't think baseball will ever go away.
Not
But here's the
completely, but like
No, not completely. I think it will always be right where it is right now, I think.
just because like horror movies didn't
Um,
go away. People still made horror
right.
movies, but now it's
Right.
getting good. Now
Right.
it's getting
But you know
popular
what?
again.
I do think football will dip. And not because of popularity, I think because of the injuries, the safety of it. Because all of a sudden now they're changing all these rules to make it
Hmm.
safer. Well,
Just because
it's
you're
kind of
finding more of the effects that it has on people that we
right now, but
didn't
now
have
all of a
before.
sudden the game is all the penalties, it's really bad right now, and it's really soft. Like, here's the thing. Okay, you know what a sack is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Think about this. There's a rule where when you sack the quarterback, you cannot land on him.
How that's like how are you supposed to not?
Exactly. Exactly. So because because of the injuries, because of the concussion stuff, because of whatever,
How do you like
they're
consciously try
creating
to
these
sack someone and not land on top of them? It's like you have to
right.
consciously like try
Have
to
you
not
okay,
do that. How is that
yeah,
even possible?
exactly.
And like in
But
the
see,
moments, you
right.
know?
And so at some point it's gonna hurt the game,
Hmm.
right? And popularity is gonna go down. But think about this: basketball, there's none of that injury contact type of stuff. You know what I mean? It's gone now. It used to be there in the '80s, right? But even then, it wasn't as bad. It wasn't ever as bad as football. So basketball will never go away. Same with baseball; those will never go away because the danger of the sport isn't nearly like that. But I can see the NFL one day, maybe in 50 years, the NFL, I don't know if it'd be gone, but it won't be the number one sport.
It won't be as prominent as it is today.
No, because it'll be more like flag football.
Hmm.
Unless
That's interesting
and
that you're actually saying that. I'm kind of surprised, but yeah, because that's what I think. I think everything will like be in cycles. Like be in popularity at
mhm,
one point. It'll dip down.
right,
Maybe it'll come back eventually.
right.
But
And
yeah.
like even like apparel and stuff like that, you're starting to see people kind of dress more like they did in like the 80s
Hmm.
now.
Like there's an '80s resurgence going on right now,
Right,
just in
right.
pop culture in
Yeah.
general.
Or like with Nike, Adidas, you got Under Armour, stuff like that. Nike's always been number.
Hmm.
But there's these moments where Ultra Boost came out, right? And you got kind of the hype beasts kind of lead that way. But guess who's still number one? Nike's still always up there, but you're gonna have these surges of maybe Under Armour in a couple years will go insane, right?
Hmm.
But Nike will still be the one consistent. They might be down a little bit, and Under Armour or Adidas might pass them in numbers for a little while, but they'll dip back down, and it'll always be Nike. So
Okay.
there's those things that like Apple, right? Think
Okay,
about
that's what
that.
I was gonna ask you next. Okay, so
And so
here's
Apple is that consistent. They'll always be in the top three, and there's gonna be a lot of times where they're the number one,
yeah, because
but
right
there's
now
gonna be
they were the first $1 trillion company,
right.
right?
But in certain times, maybe in certain
In
years,
certain
Samsung will
markets too.
explode,
Yeah.
right? Or who knows, Huawei might explode another year,
Hmm.
right? Like Samsung, I
It's
think will
Huawei.
always kind of be maybe a top five, right? But maybe HTC will have a huge comeback,
Hmm.
right? Maybe, so. But guess who will always be in the top three? Apple.
Yeah.
Top
So
two,
here's
Apple.
here's my question. So you said the NFL 50 years. Okay, if you're giving like a year limit to where you think things are going to start, phasing out of the popularity. When do you think Apple will lose its spot? When do you think it will
I don't think Apple will
fade
ever.
into obscurity? You really don't think it'll dip
No,
far
just
enough?
like Nike. Because think about this. Think about how long Nike's been number one.
Hmm.
Since what, the 80s,
So you think
70s?
that Apple is good? You think that Nike is good? What about
Yep.
superhero movies? What timeline would you give that? Because
Well,
I'd say
okay.
10 to
Here's
15
another question.
years.
Do they create new superheroes?
That's an option. That's
Because
more originality though.
right, well, but are they superheroes?
Is
Yes.
Marvel writing new heroes? Is DC writing new heroes? I'm sure they
I don't
are.
know. I don't
I just
know.
don't
But
know.
my point is if they don't, then you're gonna have to repeat.
Hmm.
But think about Marvel. I mean, they have so many
Right.
superheroes
When does the MCU
where
reboot?
oh, not for a very long time because
Really?
they're gonna go for another 10 years at least.
I give Marvel 10 years and then they're done. I give the MCU 10 years and then it'll end.
See, I disagree with that
I give it 5 to 10
because
years.
I've looked at the list of the amount of superheroes that they still have, and if they get
But not all
X-Men,
heroes work. And I think X-Men can jumble it up and make everything a
I'm
mess.
sorry, but if you make two movies about an Ant-Man, you can make a crap ton of
You can
movies.
also say, though, if you take a step back and look at the MCU as it is right now, people could make the argument that it is already convoluted with all these characters and that it
Well,
is
that's
too
why we're
much in
getting
some ways. Biggest
right, but
problem in
that's why we're
Infinity
getting
War,
Avengers
there's too
4.
much
But that's why we're getting Avengers 4.
to wipe out half of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
But see,
So,
they're always gonna have I would say, I'm guessing every 10 years,
mhm,
and maybe it'll get quicker and quicker, who knows? But there's gonna be a point where they almost have a reset.
okay.
So they don't, it's the same universe. And what's great about it is you're basing it off of the current year you're in,
Hmm.
right? Because when they talk about like in the world itself, right? Think about Homecoming, right? What when they had Keaton, whatever his real name is in the movie,
Yeah.
they showed him back in the 2012, right?
And they showed where he was at the
Exactly.
time of the. Okay.
You're basing off
How.
of real time when the movies are coming out. That's the year that usually, I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy was a bit weird,
Mhm.
and there's a couple movies here and there, but the main ones, those are that year, right? And
I'm
so
pretty sure
it's
Guardians
it's
and Guardians 2 both take place before Age of
before
Ultron.
the first, yeah, before Age of Ultron, yeah.
Hmm.
So, but I mean, those are the rare kind of things. Like even Ant-Man, it happened technically before Infinity War or like the same. It was weird, right? So, but you can have a couple of those. But what I'm saying is, in 10 years, think about say there's an Avengers movie in 10 years,
Hmm.
right? Well, I bet you there's going to be callbacks to 10 when they're saying, "Hey, 10 years ago, remember when Stark did this?"
Yeah.
Or you know what I mean?
It's like
And
even when
so
when Thanos says, "I hope they remember you," they will remember
exactly,
him, and I
exactly.
do think he'll
So
make an impact going forward. But I do think 10 years from now is when they end it.
I don't think so because I think they're going to be
Well,
able
you
to
can't
kind of
have.
go
I don't think you
I
can
think
drag
they're
it on forever, because then you hit
well,
like The
I think
Walking Dead. The Walking Dead has gone on for eight
not if you have
seasons now.
not if you're resetting it and not if think about this. Do you do you think The Walking Dead would be in a better place if they kind of reset everything 2 years ago?
Maybe, yeah. I think they're resetting it now, especially with Andrew Lincoln
Right, but
leaving.
it's a little too late,
Yeah.
right? The bad things had to happen for them to
But
reset.
then you
I
also
think
want to
what
say MCU. You don't want them to wait too late. But you think they're doing it now.
no, they're doing it now. They're
Okay.
doing it for Avengers 4. They're killing off older. They're smart. They're realizing before it falls apart, they're moving on.
Okay.
Think about this. Think about this. Okay.
I have a suggestion to
Again,
how they can do this.
another sports analogy.
Okay.
The great players like Michael Jordan, or obviously Kobe Bryant, because you know who Kobe Bryant is.
Hmm.
The last
He
two,
won an
three
Oscar.
years, he did. The last 2 or 3 years of his
That's
career,
awesome.
he wasn't the same. He was old. He was always getting hurt. He wasn't scoring as much. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
His teams weren't very good because he wasn't very good. But what was happen? But the problem was he wasn't very good. But guess what? He was getting paid like a top 3 player in the league,
Hmm.
and so it's kind of hurting the team, right? Well, think about this: LeBron James, or okay, John Elway. You know who John Elway
Yeah.
is.
Obviously.
He retired after he won a Super Bowl. Well, guess what? He won MVP of that Super Bowl. He was so great.
Yeah,
He
he
didn't
ended
wait
when he was strong.
exactly, but he knew. But right before he knew that he was at the edge.
Hmm.
Brown James has always talked
Even
about
like
this.
Brett
I'm not
Favre, because I remember when Brett Favre was retiring, that was
no
a big deal. Or
Brett.
was he
Yeah,
more
when
on a decline? I don't remember if he won his
he
last.
was well, Brett Favre was weird because he was on a decline.
Didn't he
He
come
retired.
back? Didn't
He
he like
came
retire and come
back
back?
and
Yeah.
he played great, but then he declined again, retired, and then he came back, played good,
So
and
that's
then
the
kind of
Walking Dead example.
yeah, he kept on
Okay.
coming. Yeah, I mean it was
Because Andrew
so
Lincoln
like,
is coming back to direct.
anyways, yeah, but you know what I mean. So
The
like
parallels here are
the
amazing.
I think what they're realizing over at MCU is we can't drag out Iron Man too
Mhm.
long, right? We have to end him at some point. Captain America, if we drag him out too long, you can even make an argument that they might have by Iron Man 3, a lot of people were thinking that he was already being dragged out,
And
right?
maybe he should have, for story wise and how it ends and how
But the Avengers movies
they weren't ready for it.
kind of boosted it,
Hmm.
right? Boosted him a little bit, right?
I think
But
they
now they're
boosted him
getting
a
to the
lot.
point of a Iron Man 4, probably not a good idea.
No.
But guess what? We could probably sprinkle him in a couple movies later on if we right if we don't want to kill him.
Hmm.
You know,
Here's
he
my
can be in
suggestion.
Homecoming. So, but what they're saying is before we get injured, before we start having bad movies of these guys, before these guys start getting old to the audience,
You
we're
want
gonna
to make
take
it
them out
fresh and new.
because the impact of taking them out is huge.
Hmm.
Not only that, right? And it grabs that attention, but it also you're also resetting. Now, here's the dangerous part: is that you got to make sure that new group is just as good.
All right. Here's my
But guess
suggestion
what?
for this.
But guess what? They
It's the
have
X-Men.
X-Men coming. They have Fantastic Four coming.
Okay.
And guess who is going to be the lead in 2 years? Spider-Man.
Okay. So
Look
here's what I
how
have to say
young
about this.
he is.
Here's what I have to say about this. So the MCU is getting okay. So here's how I do think they're going to do a soft reboot. People have been confused as to
That's perfect
how.
word to it.
Yeah.
Soft reboot. Same universe, same characters. It's just you're killing off old ones. You're bringing in new.
So
Yeah.
here's how I think they're going to do it. Because people are struggling to figure out how in the world they're going to bring X-Men into this. Because X-Men has a mythology and a history. Because I know you're not the biggest fan of the original X-Men films, but Magneto had his start with World War II and the Nazi Party and all of that, right? How do you take that character defining moment and plop him into the MCU as it stands right now? You can't. Because you can't just say, oh, mutants has been here the whole time, but we just didn't know about it. Like, that
That's a
doesn't
good
work.
point.
So here's how I think they're going to do it. And people say, because like, the CW
Wait.
shows, they have multiple Earths and they have like portal between Earths. That's not going to
Yeah.
happen. I
No.
think that the reality that we're living in now is going to end. I
They're
think it's going to
changing it
end.
'cause
They're
they're
going to
going back
change
in
reality
time.
to where, not
They're
just
going
going
back
back
in
in time.
time.
I think they're going to a new reality in general, because it's like Doctor Strange, all these different dimensions, all these different
Yeah.
worlds. I think they're going to go to a different dimension,
So
different world, maybe where the characters switch of the dusted. I don't know about that, but it's going to end with them in a world where X-Men have been there the whole time.
Mhm.
And they don't know, and then you have an Avengers versus X-Men movie. That's the next Avengers movie. Because that's
Are
what
you?
fans have been
That's a
clamoring
great
for
idea.
a long time. And I don't like the elsewhere, like, multiple Earths and, there's a portal
No,
between. You
I
can
don't
pull
like
that
that.
off in a CW show, right?
It's a
Because,
different
it's
reality.
silly. If you take all the characters that stand now, you destroy this universe. Literally the definition of a soft reboot. You're rebooting the universe with the same actors in it, the same characters that we love, maybe with the same personalities. Maybe they remember their past of this world now. But
Mhm.
maybe it switches to where now they're plopped into this other world with this whole thing with mutants, a mutant war going on, to where humans and mutants are on edge and superheroes are, more obsolete. And now there's a war between Avengers and X-Men. I
Right.
think that can make an
Remember?
amazing. If you're going to top Avengers Infinity War and Avengers 4, that's how you do
That's
it.
how you do it.
That's how
Remember
you do it.
when I was nervous when I was talking about I was nervous about time travel because you do one thing, it changes everything. And I was like, how are they gonna do
If you
that? How
mess it
are
up
they
too
gonna
much, get rid of
cheap
the
that
universe.
out? Exactly.
Get rid of it. Don't make it convoluted. Don't ruin things. Just wipe the slate clean. Maybe the only way to
So
save the
Thanos in the
universe is
end.
to destroy it, to get rid of it,
So
to
so at
restart.
the end of the day, Thanos will always have won.
Yes. And then that's the perfect way to introduce the X-Men to where they've been there the whole time. You have a
Hmm.
new Wolverine
Hmm.
in maybe a post-credit
Yep.
scene, and you just pour Dark Phoenix.
Yeah.
Because a
Yeah.
month later, or no,
Right.
was it 3 months later?
What do you think they do with Deadpool?
Deadpool. That's the
Do you,
part that
will they
sucks. I
keep
think.
Ryan Reynolds?
Here's the
They
thing.
have to, right?
I don't know. I think Ryan Reynolds. I think that's the same thing you were saying. You stop while you're ahead. I think Ryan Reynolds knows that himself. He's like, I don't know if I want to do a
Yeah.
Deadpool 3 because what else can this character lose? And I think
Right.
Ryan Reynolds is fully aware of that. I think he's ready to let go of the character. He made two amazing films. He's going to make a great X Force movie, hopefully, if that gets greenlit before all this happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to end. Or what I would maybe not prefer, but I also wouldn't hate the X Men just being separate from the MCU. I wouldn't hate that, but I
That's another
want
option,
an
but they won't
Avengers
do it.
versus X Men. I want
Right.
that. And
Well,
also, it was
they
announced a few weeks
there's a
ago
there's a
that
reason why they're buying it.
Kevin Feige is running the X Men. They announced it a few days ago.
Oh.
He said he's going to be running the X Men,
Yeah.
which is crazy that they announced it this early.
Okay,
But
but
he's
think
going to be
about
the head.
this. This is why in 10 years they're going to be around and they're going to be just as strong.
Maybe.
They might be even
I think I might have
stronger.
convinced myself that it might last longer than 10 years.
It's going to last at least, I think, here's my thing. I think it lasts at least
Maybe
another
10 years
15.
before another soft reboot. 10 to 15
Well,
years for
what I'm
another soft
saying,
reboot.
what I'm saying is I think there will be a soft reboot after every 10 years. I think that's their plan.
But do they ever bring back Captain America and Iron Man? Do they just fully reboot it? Because I think that'd be the smarter choice. Because if you get rid of Iron Man and Captain America now, 10 years from now, we won't have them for 10 years. Would that be long enough time to recast Chris Evans, to recast a Robert Downey Jr.?
But they wouldn't.
A Chris Hemsworth?
No,
To
no, no,
reboot
no.
it after another
No,
10, 15
because
years?
think about in the comics, there's a different Captain America. He's
Okay,
not
yeah.
he's not what's his face? He's not Steve Rogers. It's Bucky.
And if they can
Right?
pull it off, right? You know, if you get the right
Shuri.
actor,
Think about this. The other rumor was Shuri being the new Iron Man.
that'd be cool.
She gets the suits.
Mhm.
Right? It works because she's the tech head. She already had those gun things.
Would you
like,
lose some technology if you were to go to a different dimension? Because I know Iron Man is super overpowered. Or would you keep it super overpowered?
why? But Shuri's overpowered.
Okay, yeah. I'm not arguing with that.
But think about this: when you
Smallest
add in
person
the
in
X Men,
MCU.
everything's overpowered.
Okay, how about this?
It's
If they
even.
add in Fantastic Four, in the comics, Reed Richards, who's Mr. Fantastic, is the smartest person in Marvel comics.
Mhm.
Who do you think would be the smartest? 'Cause right now, Shuri. Kevin Feige said Shuri's the smartest person in the MCU. If they put in Fantastic Four, would that change?
I think you'll have it even. Okay, here's another thing I want you to look at. Okay, Google. Marvel. Superheroes. Not in the MCU yet.
Captain
you're-
Britain.
Because
Do you
think about
they added
this.
Captain
Okay,
Britain? 'Cause I know that was rumored.
well they're gonna add everyone
Namor.
eventually. But think about it.
Sandy,
They're gonna
She-Hulk.
add it because in 20 years
She-Hulk?
they're gonna be running. In 10 years they're gonna be running out.
Yeah.
But okay, now in 10 years, guess who dies?
10
Peter
years.
Parker.
Peter Parker. Well, see, here's the
Guess who-
thing, though. You
guess who
have
come-
the
guess
you have
who
the whole
comes in?
Sony thing, though, which is why I don't think Spider-Man will be deleted.
they're gonna have to fix they're gonna have to work that out.
Here's
but guess,
something-
but here's the thing. In their mind, right? If they do get him for 10 years,
Mhm.
right? When they kill him, guess who takes over? Miles Morales. You got another 10 years.
But no, but
Spider-Man.
Here's the thing with Sony, which John Campion made a good point, is where he said if Venom fails, then Sony would be pressured to take Spider-Man back from the MCU,
But
because
isn't Sony still making money off of the Spider-Man movies?
half they're splitting it. See, every single Spider-Man movie that has ever come out has made more than $700 million in the box office. Every single movie with Spider-Man in it. Now, that is a money-making machine. If Venom fails without Spider-Man,
Man,
if they
Sony's
can't
gonna
launch it
ruin all
without...
this.
Yes, if Venom fails, which I think it might. I'm nervous
Yeah.
for it. They released some new clips today, which were pretty good. But I'm nervous. If it fails, I think Sony might be pressured to take it back because then they don't have a way to make money without Spider-Man. They know for a fact that Spider-Man will make more than $700 million if Spider-Man is in a movie that they make. Because every single one, including Spider-Man 3, including The Amazing Spider-Man 2, has cracked that bar. And so that's what he was saying is like, if Venom fails, if that whole universe crumbles, if that cannot sustain itself without Spider-Man, then they're taking him back.
Yeah.
which is why I think that crushes your theory, which sucks because I would want them to have
Okay.
like
Well,
a
but
Miles
it's just that's
Morales.
just one. But you get my point though.
Hmm.
Is when like think about all the comics, right? There's a new Iron Man, right?
There's
There's
also
a
multiple spider people. Like Silk is a, I think her name is Silk,
mm-hmm.
is a
Yeah.
Korean superhero who is a
Yeah.
student of Peter Parker. She's actually
Yeah.
her character is actually in Spider-Man: Homecoming, which
Yep.
is
I
cool.
know. I
And
know.
I
Well,
know
but see,
Sony's working
but
on that movie.
but that's what. But
Maybe
think about
Sony can just
this.
have that in their universe. I don't know. I
But
hope
think
they
about
keep
this,
Peter Parker.
Brad. In Iron Man 2, you literally saw on the map Wakanda.
Hmm?
They've always done
That was
this.
an Easter egg, and then they were able
It's
to
an
build
Easter
it
egg.
up. They
They're
were
they're
able to
playing
make it a payoff, which is
exactly. Well,
impressive.
think about Homecoming with Morales. They're
Yeah,
dropping these
yeah, I forgot
hints
about that.
just in case.
I forgot about that.
His Brad, his nephew could be maybe five,
How about the? Okay,
4.
how about
You know,
this?
okay, think
I
about
had
this
an
though.
idea.
In 10 years, right? My theory was Peter Parker dies, they bring in Miles Morales.
Hmm.
So that means that his nephew, and think about, Donald Glover was pretty young. So maybe his nephew's only like 3 or 4. In 10 years, he's 14, 15.
Hmm.
It matches, right?
Here's the
They're
thing.
planting seeds in
Well, no,
everything
his
just
nephew
in
can be pretty old.
case.
Like if his brother, I don't know.
Maybe,
Here's the thing
maybe,
though.
but we don't know. They can make it up in 10 years.
Okay, ready? I think that Tom Holland is going to have his Far From Home. Maybe he has one more appearance, but I think he's going to have that be as last. Maybe one more. I think Sony takes back Spider-Man, puts him in their
And they give
universe.
us Miles Morales.
And yeah, so not only they're making their full power with Spider-Man in their universe, but they're also making half from the MCU with a different Spider character.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
that's how it can live on. And then you have a Miles Morales. You
Right.
have
You
the
kind of
social
rotate
commentary
it
with
with them.
that. Yes, and I think that
Okay.
makes the diversity in the MCU even
But
greater.
so now do you understand why I think it can last so much longer?
Yeah, I do understand that.
I think in 20 years there's a chance. Now I'm saying
That it could still be around, really.
yeah, there's a chance
Marvel
because
30 years. Okay, how
because
about this? Kevin Feige.
because they have so many characters.
What if Kevin Feige leaves?
I mean you just got to replace them and you got to just
You gotta
do
hope
the
you get
best to
someone like
keep it
that.
up
'Cause
and
Kevin Feige is the heart and soul of the MCU.
you got to hope that you can keep it up. Now here's the thing. Okay. Let me send you this link
Okay.
and we're going to look at some of the top Marvel characters.
Are you sending me on Discord?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
All right. So, number 1, Galactus. Galactus is a villain. That's another villain that they can use in the future.
Galactus could be
You
the
know-
villain in X-Men versus
Yeah.
Avengers.
You
movie.
know how many villains they haven't used? It's unreal. Think about just the Spider-Man universe, or even Silver Surfer.
Wait, are you talking
is
about Galactus or Silver Surfer? You're talking about Galactus, right?
yeah.
Yeah, it would be
But
no.
like
Galactus would be perfect for Avengers
yeah,
versus
but
X-Men.
think about Silver Surfer can be an Avengers villain,
Hmm.
or he could be the villain in Avengers versus X-Men.
Yeah, that's all. I thought
Right?
you were talking about Silver Surfer, but yeah,
Yeah.
Galactus
But
also
anyways,
works.
Galactus, like but then think about it, they have so many other characters that they haven't used.
Hmm.
There's so many just in the X-Men alone.
Yeah.
Just in the
See,
Fantastic
here's the
Four.
thing, though. Marvel's biggest IPs are the X-Men and Spider-Man. They don't even own either of them, and
I
they're
know,
able
it's
to
crazy.
create what they have now, which is insane. And the fact that they're getting X-Men
That's what I'm
back.
saying. That's what I'm
Yes.
saying.
I do think if they do it the way I said, my theory, if they, destroy this universe and have a new one,
Yeah,
plop our
yeah.
characters in.
They just got to rotate it. They
Yes.
just got to keep on rotating, and they can't drag anything
It's
else
just
along.
the biggest
they
thing
know
is
that.
you can't get rid of the mythology of the X-Men.
Now, here's
the
the thing.
X-Men is built off of the history
Right.
of World War II
But-
and of all these different things.
Here's the issue, and we'll find this out when Avengers 4 comes out. If Cap is still in this thing, if Iron Man is still in this thing, and they're going strong, and maybe they're coming out with more movies or whatever, that's when we get worried.
Mm-hmm.
They have to. I think this has to be it for at least.
You think they have to do a soft reboot?
Yes. Now they don't have to kill them. There's other ways. You can have Tony Stark be the new Nick Fury. You can have, you know what I mean? Because you're rotating. Maybe you kill off Nick Fury. Well, he's in. The new Spider-Man.
Hold on. You want to know a crazy theory before you go on with this? My crazy theory is that Nick Fury dies in Captain Marvel, and he's replaced by a Skrull. Do you know what the Skrulls are?
Yeah.
So they're the shape-shifting.
So he's a
Skrull.
scroll.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit! That plot twist.
I know. Wouldn't that be great if Nick Fury
That's nuts.
dies? So in not the MCU, in Supergirl the TV show, they have this character called the Martian Manhunter, and when he first came down to Earth, he was a good guy, but people were trying to kill him, and he kills this head of the CIA or whatever, and so he takes his spot, and he lives among them. And
Okay.
then to a
Well,
point where then he's
that's a
accepted
nice theory.
as part of the
Yeah.
theory. So I just like that story arc, even though that show is hot garbage.
Yeah.
That story arc was interesting, and I think if you use it with Nick Fury and have him be a Skrull the entire time, because I feel like they're going in the direction where they're going to reveal like half the Avengers are Skrulls, and there's like the secret Marvel Secret Wars, which is another Avengers thing, which could be instead of X-Men versus Avengers, there's a whole like Secret Wars thing, but that's like super. I don't know anything about that. It's like if I watch Heroes more, maybe. But like that's a whole other thing.
Next page. Nova.
Nova. This
Part of
one
Guardians of
I
the Galaxy.
skipped forward a little bit. Which like the Nova planet, the Xandar.
Mm-hmm.
Thanos said like he like destroyed his.
He
Hopefully
destroyed
he
it.
didn't destroy it all. But they could go back. You can bring John C.
Or-
Reilly
or-
back.
Or Nova
Glenn
wasn't
Close,
there.
I think.
Richard Rider wasn't there.
Oh, I mean, well, Thanos isn't known to killing entire population, only half.
Well, yeah. But
So if you go
also,
back-
you can make it that
imagine-
where the story picks up is
Yeah, imagine a
Richard Rider
world
comes
where
back to his planet and it's gone.
yeah, or like half of
And-
it is the society's destroyed.
Right.
That'd
and
be a
his,
great story.
Yeah, exactly. And his story is bringing them back up. So there's that. She-Hulk is another one. So you kill off the Hulk, you bring in
Mhm.
She-Hulk.
She-Hulk is possible. I can see that.
Now remember when we were talking about how
Oh, but-
Captain Marvel is going to change things, more women in the MCU.
Mhm.
We haven't even seen 90% of the women in the MCU superheroes.
More than
Yeah.
90%.
Exactly. So think about all of that.
Yeah.
In 10 years, it
She-Hulk
could be
is possible.
swapped where we're only getting 2 or 3 men in the MCU.
I wonder
You
if
know what I mean?
Universal. I wonder if Marvel will be able to, bite the bullet and have Universal distribute a She-Hulk movie. Because I know Universal has the rights. That's why they can't
Yeah.
make a Hulk movie. Is
Right.
because they can't distribute the movie under the Marvel brand. They have to do it with Universal's, approval,
Right.
basically.
Yeah.
So I wonder
But
if they would
but
do
they
a
did it
She-Hulk
with
movie.
the first Hulk movie, so
Yeah.
technically, right? So
Mhm. Yeah, no.
next
That
one.
is, if you watch that movie, it has the Universal logo and everything. It's crazy.
Yeah. Next one, Kazar.
Okay, sorry,
This
never
one's
heard
cool.
of him. Is he?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He's
kinda
cool.
like Tarzan.
Yeah.
Flying Adventures, Satisfying, blah blah blah. With that, dinosaurs. I'm in.
You could do time travel with this. Maybe he got frozen just like Cap, but he's from
What's
he's
that?
from the
What's that
dinosaur.
one movie where they're building a pool in their backyard and they find Brendan Fraser frozen?
Oh my god.
Oh no!
Oh my god, that movie is so funny. I don't know. We'll
And
look
like,
it up
is it,
later.
I'll be back, and then they never came
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
And it's single tear.
But
okay.
anyway, so this one's really cool. You can do some cool things with this one.
Lesser known hero. You don't take chances like Guardians. Why not?
Spider-Woman.
I do think if they were to bring a character, either Miles Morales or a Silk or a Gwen, Spider Gwen,
Yeah,
or something
right.
like that. I don't know.
I mean, this is Spider-Woman here.
Spider Woman. Yeah.
Now look at her history, both an agent of Hydra and as an agent of Shield.
Mhm.
And actually they dropped her name in Homecoming. Yeah, it says right here.
Yeah,
they
so
dropped her
I'm
name.
pretty sure
Didn't-
everybody in that class is a Spider-Man character. Like I
Yeah.
swear, it's
Right.
hilarious.
No, and it's but
like
it's
the
smart
blonde girl
from the-
worked with J. Jonah Jameson
Mhm.
in the.
but it's smart
the
because
one.
MCU is saying we can drop these names as Easter eggs now, but they could become real.
Mhm.
Just
I really
like what
hope they do
did-
like the
just
Silk
like
or
they did
the
with that
Spider-Man.
map.
I would like that.
Look at-
Yeah.
Like, go back to Iron Man 2. Look at that map.
I
They're
really
almost
like
all-
that idea with the fact that they sprinkled in a Miles Morales thing,
Mhm.
and if they can get to that point, they're thinking of it.
Mhm.
So I don't know.
This one I've never actually heard of. Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi?
We don't have a Asian character. in
Controversy.
MCU.
Oh, that's an Iron Fist character.
Huh.
So I'd see that more popping up on the
Yeah.
Netflix shows. So that's a no.
Name or this one.
Namor. Oh,
Namor.
this one's for sure because that's
Yeah.
owned by X-Men, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
He's part of
20
a member of X-Men.
2006 is reported that they had a Namor movie. Really? Definitely did not. Yeah, Project is dead. That's interesting. I always hear things
So-
about it's their Aquaman, pretty much. I think.
Oh, this is my favorite one. The next one, Moon Knight.
Moon Knight. I have heard of Moon Knight. Gun. This is an old
Look,
article.
James Gunn said he's got a great idea for a Moon Knight movie.
This is April 2016 or 2018, huh?
Yeah.
Well, James Gunn is definitely not part of it, which is
Well, but they
sad.
said, aren't they gonna bring him back eventually?
They didn't say that, but they could. They
Okay,
can go
well,
back on it. He's for sure
hello,
not directing
here we
Guardians 3.
go.
He was supposed to spearhead the. Here's another thing. Wait. Oh gosh, what is the one movie, The Eternals? They announced a
Mm-hmm.
director for that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Eternals.
yeah,
Adam
I
Warlock.
completely forgot about that. Adam Warlock, yeah, that was he had an Easter egg in Guardians too in
Mm-hmm.
the credits.
Again, any Easter egg that they drop, Rat, if they have the rights to, they're making a movie. Think
Either
about
they're
that.
making a movie or that character is going to make an appearance at one point or
Exactly.
another.
Exactly. Because their Easter eggs aren't just Easter eggs. They're not anymore.
Hmm.
And we know that now because of Black Panther, because of Spider, like everything. Like that map right there, like go take like Google that picture. It's nuts.
Yeah,
Like it's crazy. Kamala Khan,
I lost my page in the
Kamala,
thing, and I had to
the
go all the way back.
star of the breakout hit Miss Marvel. Um,
I wonder if they would bring a Miss Marvel in. I'm not sure if she is tied with Captain Marvel.
I don't know.
I know Miss Marvel is a character though, obviously.
Kamala has quickly become the latest heir to the classic Peter Parker archetype. She's an obvious choice to take the role of a nascent, what the hell is that word? Hero coming into her own in the shadow of the already prevalent Avengers. On top of that, Kamala hits a lot of important buttons on screen, diversity or not. Yeah, again, like look at diversity.
Uh huh.
I want to go find a different article. Let's see if there's any more.
And that was the last one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'll send you this one real
I
quick.
do need to research the Eternals though, because I know that's coming out. I honestly am not sure if they would do the because like if you were to do the X-Men Elseworld thing, how much would change in that
Hmm.
different universe? Like if you were to do that one Nova guy, that
Hmm.
planet, who knows if that's going to look anything the same.
This is
Adding
old,
the X-Men
but
in is a huge change. Like that
right.
world is completely different.
Right, because think about how many characters they have. Okay, so click on that one. There's 25 more. This is 2 years old, so we might see some weird ones, but the
Oh,
first one is Namor,
yeah.
which I think is the one of the coolest ones. This one, Silver Sable.
Silver Sable. Oh no, that Sony's making a Silver Sable movie.
Oh,
Yeah, it's because they were playing on silver and black, so it'd be Silver Sable
okay.
and Black Cat, and they decided to split
Next,
it into two movies.
all right. Next one is Miles Morales.
Miles Morales, also
Craven the
Sony.
Hunter.
Craven the Hunter is also a project they're working on at Sony. He's a Spider-Man villain. Actually,
Miss
no, they're
Marvel.
not planning on this. Not no. Actually, it might be.
So they might have. What would be cool is you have Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel. It's like the
People, yeah.
Iron Man, Captain America duo. Well, you have instead you got Miss
I
Marvel,
really hope they
Captain
do it.
Marvel.
I'm not sure because like you have a Captain Marvel, and you have a Miss Marvel. Is that too many
They might change her
Marvels? And you
name.
have
I
like
don't know.
Marvel.
Spider Woman, Nova. Oh, Nova is so cool.
Nova
She
is a really good
Hulk,
chance. I hope they wanted to do more.
Ghost Rider, Ghost Rider, Brad.
Ghost Rider was great in Shield. You never finished Agents of Shield, but the Ghost
Oh, he
Rider
was in
arc in
Ghost
Agents
Rider
of Shield.
already, or he was in Shield already.
Yeah, so that's a no. He was great in
What?
Agents of Shield though. Like his arc
I'm
was
Brad.
amazing.
My favorite though is Moon Knight. I can't wait. Moon Knight is gonna be like a dark movie. Like they could make that like the Dark Knight, like
They can make
legit.
that. I see that being like the next Winter Soldier of the MCU.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
more
yeah.
serious take, the
Blade. I
darker.
don't know Blade.
Oh, Blade. He's had movies before. He's the first. I want to say he was the first African American superhero to get a movie,
Mm.
but Blade was a
Adam
movie at one
Adam
point.
Warlock, Captain Britain. Hmm.
Yeah, Captain Britain. There were rumors of Captain Britain recently,
Young
which is
Avengers.
hilarious.
What the hell is that?
I don't know. Young Avengers are weird. That's kind of like a Cloak and Dagger type thing, like the
Yeah.
younger. Well, that's a
Marvel.
Vision.
We're already gonna get
I just
Marvel,
don't know
and he's dead, so that's quick.
who. Oh, Captain
Marvel.
Marvel. Yeah, Marvel.
He'll probably die.
Yeah, probably.
Beta Ray. Okay,
Beta Ray Bill. Yeah, he's a Thor character. Obviously,
weird.
as you can tell.
He looks like Thor, but an animal version of Thor. Oh yeah, there's Thor in the background.
Yeah. I always hear
Oh.
about
Red
Beta
Hulk.
Ray Bill. So hard to
I
say.
want Red Hulk.
Red Hulk would be cool.
Sentry.
Okay, what if they get rid of Hulk, right, and they bring back Mark Ruffalo to do a Red Hulk? That'd be cool.
That'd be cool.
Or they get a
What
different
about-
actor. I don't know if
Have we
it's
seen
still.
Have we seen Sentry?
Century?
Yeah,
No,
anything?
I've never heard of this guy.
Sentry is cool. Morlun. Black
This guy
Cat,
looks intense. Yeah, Black
Bull-
Cat. They're making a movie, so.
Bullseye.
Oh, Bullseye was the villain in the Daredevil movie. That sucked.
Oh, okay. White Tiger. She looks like a
Never heard
villain.
of her.
Taskmaster might be a villain.
He looks like
Carnage.
a Carnage. Obviously, he's in the Venom movie.
Fing Fang Foom. Oh God.
Why not?
YOLO.
And that's it.
Yeah. But I
I
mean,
don't know.
but think about how many characters we just went. Like,
I
you
really want to
and
know
not,
about the Eternals.
not to mention the rest of the Avengers, the Eternals. Like, it's crazy.
You know, after talking about like the Elseworld type thing, if you just drop our current Avengers in a world with X-Men, like maybe they do remember, you know, their past lives. Maybe everything is different. Maybe Peggy Carter is somehow, I don't know. I'm just like spitballing here, but you can bring some characters back. You can bring back Quicksilver. You know, you bring back that actor Aaron Taylor Johnson for Quicksilver. You know, you can have dynamic there. You can do a lot if you just, you know, plop them in a different world.
Well, remember,
It
do
changes
you
everything,
remember me
though.
telling you about there was a rumor of bringing Quicksilver back?
There was. I don't know in what way you were saying. Oh, just like the time travel thing?
Because there's a rumor that he was on set. The
I don't
actor.
know. I can see him like making a cameo in Avengers 4, but I would more so see him coming back in if they were to throw the X-Men in there. Because
Okay.
Quicksilver,
We can
kind of the
throw
reason
that.
why they killed Quicksilver is because he was so popular in X-Men. It's like those are
Okay.
the best scenes of Days
So,
of Future
but
Past.
they never called him Quicksilver.
They never name dropped him Quicksilver now,
Yeah.
but he was that character.
Okay. Well, they can bring him back in
They also
some way.
changed the backstory because did you know Scarlet Witch is the daughter of Magneto in the comics?
Oh, I did hear about that. Yeah.
Yeah, so like they can mess with stuff. They can
They can. Yeah.
they can mess with
definitely-
her backstory,
Yeah.
and maybe like you know she's her own character.
You know, she's gonna be.
She's
I
gonna be
mean, now that they're in
miniseries.
the TV, yeah. I
See,
mean,
that's
she's gonna
tough,
be.
though.
I feel like she's gonna be a
That's
big
soon.
character soon.
I don't know. I love her as a character. She's great.
Yeah,
Best
she's
one of the best
amazing.
parts of Infinity War.
Oh yeah, she's incredible. I want her to be
Or the
a focal
Eternals.
point here soon.
Hmm
But yeah, I mean, you know what I'm saying.
They can go on
Crazy.
forever. They keep on soft rebooting and you know
Yeah.
doing stuff like that.
But now here's the other issue though is with rights. Would Marvel lose the rights? No, because that's their character. Never
Lose
mind.
the rights
Would they
for what?
lose? They wouldn't lose Iron Man, right?
No, they wouldn't lose. No.
So
I think
see,
there's a
they
certain
can-
amount of time to use a character. So like the reason why
but
Fans
but
Four
it's
Stick
their
came out
character.
it is their character. I'm not sure if they had. No, I guess that was only.
See that
X-Men,
only counts
yeah.
towards Fox and Sony, where
Mhm.
they had to bring out a movie or else
Every
it went
so
back
often,
to Marvel.
Yeah.
Because that was the threat, was it would go back to Marvel.
hmm They had like they hadn't made a Phantom Four Stick movie
Right.
in
See,
X
so
amount of
Marvel has an
years.
advantage here. They don't have to reboot anything.
You know,
they don't
it's really crazy the fact that they were able to build this without 90% of their
I
like
know.
biggest characters.
And the characters that they own, they don't have to ever bring them back. They
Mhm.
don't.
They can
you
just
can-
bring different iterations of
you can-
them.
you-
Not
exactly.
even. They could just be like the way
Exactly.
Black Widow has been a side character in the Avengers movies. The next Captain America could be a side character in these next movies.
Exactly.
You have Captain Marvel taking the lead, or you have Spider-Man.
Well, that's
or you
why.
have
That's
a Black
why. That's
Panther.
why I think Stark becomes Nick Fury type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe
head of the
Cap has a
Avengers.
nice. Maybe Cap is a big funeral. You know.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's interesting.
But there's so
I'm
much
excited.
that they can do, and they have so much characters that they can go on forever. But they just got to be smart. They got to know when to end certain characters,
Mhm.
and that's the key. You have to know when to end them because here's the thing.
You have to know what you're doing in general. If they have a plan
Right.
to put the X-Men in the MCU,
Mhm.
they better have a solid plan, and it better
Yeah,
have.
and you
like,
got to roll
better
with
start
it.
now.
Yeah, and you got to roll with it. Well, they're already dropping Easter eggs left and right.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. With the, you got to end them at the right time because it works both ways. The effect of killing them wouldn't, if you wait too long, that effect won't be as great, right?
Yeah.
So now you have to do something with them.
Here's the thing. Hold on. Here's another thing that I would say. I don't think they drop the X-Men in right now. Okay. I
No,
don't think
it's gonna take a
after Avengers
while.
4. Here's what I say. I say there's one more Avengers movie after Avengers 4.
And then
That
they bring
is
in
the X-Men, or not the X-Men, the Avengers versus like the Skrulls. You know, half the Avengers are revealed to be Skrulls. You have
Right.
that movie. You have the Avengers Secret Wars movie, and then after when that movie ends, that's when you introduce the X-Men.
And
That's
think
when
about
the
that,
world
Brad.
separates.
That's in 10 years.
That's not in 10 years. That's in like
Yeah.
actually it might be. Wait, Avengers movies are every
Almost.
what? How many years? 2012 to 2015 to 2000 and what year is it? 18. It's every 3 years. Next Avengers movie would be in 3 years.
So the X-Men would come in
Well,
what,
3 years
6
after
years?
next year. So 2022 is when the next Avengers movies would be. X-Men
So
would
then,
show up in 2023. That lines up with the deal. It lines up. Because they
yeah.
have like 2 years before it's
And
even
that's
accepted.
and think about that, Brad. And then you have probably easily another 10 years
That's
worth
when you
of
start
X-Men
dropping Easter eggs. You
characters.
start dropping Easter eggs
Well,
in 2 years.
Brad, think about
You
that.
don't
And
start
you
now.
have Fantastic Four as well. So you have all of those characters, and you're 15 years in already.
Mm-hmm.
16 years
And
in.
also, no origin stories. You don't need origin stories if you just plop them in that universe.
Exactly.
You can just throw them in with the X-Men. This war has been going on for years. Charles is old. Magneto is old. You know?
You can even.
'Cause that's how they're
you
supposed to be in the
can- yeah,
comics. They've been fighting for years. For centuries.
Right.
Or not centuries. For decades.
right.
For centuries. Jeez.
But think about that, Brad. That we're introducing the X-Men in 16 years into the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Introducing the most popular
And I think if you drop
just
it in
character,
right in the middle,
huge
it's,
ass group.
I think if you drop it right in the middle too, it's even better.
Yeah.
It's like that makes it a more interesting story if you just throw
and
these characters
how
that we
many
know and
characters-
love into this situation.
Yeah. And how many characters there are in the X-Men, it's unbelievable.
Mhm.
Not to mention the Fantastic Four. And then so you're
Which
gonna have three
can be
groups.
great.
You're gonna have
Which-
three groups. You're
Yeah.
gonna have the Avengers, you're gonna have the X-Men, and then you're gonna have the Fantastic group.
Don't they have 3 groups right now? Because I was thinking they have the original Avengers group, right? They have the Guardians of the Galaxy, and they have this new group. They have 3 groups right now.
Yeah.
So like they have the new wave,
Well, the new
the
Avengers.
old wave.
So
and
you're
then
gonna have, because right now you have
the
the old
Guardians.
Avengers, the new Avengers, but the new Avengers.
But then you also have the space stuff.
Because
you
the
know,
lead on, let's see, I want to look.
The
The lead
Off-Earth.
on the new Avengers is led by Spider-Man and Captain Marvel, I believe.
is it?
Yeah, I believe so.
Because I know Spider-Man was always like on and
Spider-Man's
off as an Avenger.
huge. Spider-Man is huge in the Avengers. Oh no.
No,
The
Spider-Man
new
was
Aven-
always like he joined for a while and then he disappeared. And
The
then,
new
he never
Avengers-
stayed an Avenger.
Has part of the X-Men, part of the Fantastic Four.
Huh. Do you think they call it the New Avengers?
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
bet I guarantee you we get a movie called The New Avengers.
Okay. I can see that
How-
happening.
how
I do
sick.
really hope they do a. Hold on. I want to send you this fan poster of X-Men, Avengers versus X-Men. It's an amazing fan poster. I love it so much. Hold on, let me pull this up. X-Men, or Avengers versus X-Men fan poster. I saw it on Twitter the other day. Oh, I don't think I'm going to be able to find it easily. If I find it, I'll send it to you. But it's a really cool poster. And because when I saw that, I was like, yeah, I want this movie. I want it now.
Hey Brad, I think you're right about that scroll thing. Check this out.
There's photos of another film. Ooh. I hate looking at step photos. Why am I doing this?
I know you want to see this one though.
I do want to see it. What is it?
It's Wong.
Oh, it's Wong? Yeah, Wong is a scroll. That'd be cool.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Why
Yeah,
is it
they're
taking
gonna
out
go
the back of his
nuts.
head? Yeah, I really hope they kill what's his face, Nick Fury in Captain Marvel. I think that'd be really cool. It'd be like a shocking.
Yeah.
It's like
that's a-
maybe he gets stabbed through
crazy
the
twist.
eye and he dies, and when
Right.
the scroll recreates his form, he doesn't
the
have an
eye is
eye.
gone.
Or like the people saw him get stabbed in the eye, so I was like, okay, yeah,
Right.
I don't have an eye. I don't know. I really think the Skrulls are going to be introduced. Next movie is Skrulls, the Avengers Secret Wars. Oh, jeez. Avengers Secret Wars is the next Avengers movie. The next one after that, the one that tops it all, is X-Men versus Avengers.
Right.
The introduction of the X-Men should be that movie.
Yeah.
I don't think you have an X-Men movie before. Or do you
No,
have an
yeah,
X-Men
yeah.
movie before
Well, no.
that? No? You just drop them right in there?
Well, no, they're too big. I think you have to.
I think
Yeah,
you
you
could.
have to.
I think you could.
I think you could, but that's a lot, Brad.
It's dangerous. But with Kevin Feige in charge, I think he can do it.
Yeah, but think about how many characters you're introducing all in one. They've never done that.
Well, you don't have to have like a huge group of. Actually, introduce that many at once. Yeah, I don't know. They could do. Actually,
That's a
I could
lot.
see them doing
And,
an
and
X-Men movie.
do they bring in Wolverine? Like,
Okay, hold on. How about this? An
who's the new
Avengers movie.
Wolverine? Like, do you do that?
Yeah,
Well,
no,
you
you
have
recast him.
He's so big. You have to.
Oh, even though Hugh Jackman said at one point that he'd do another Wolverine film if it was with the Avengers.
Yeah, but
Which is
he
like,
has
he's not
to
gonna
be
do it. He's too old, and he needs to stay.
and-
you know.
Exactly. He needs to stay 10 years.
Yeah. And it's not that he's old. He's
I
still
would
like really good
say,
shape,
yeah,
but
honestly, that's the lifespan for all these
10
characters.
years.
I would say it's 10 years.
Uh, yeah, Hugh
Man,
Jackman stayed in that
Stark is
character
dying.
for 10 years. He
Stark is
played that character.
dying.
Um,
I don't think he is the new Nick Fury. I think he's gonna die.
yeah, I don't remember. Oh shoot, what was I gonna say?
I don't want. But see, Robert Downey Jr. The way he talks, it doesn't seem like he's
Hmm.
dying.
Here, okay, this is what I was gonna say. So you have Avengers 4 next year, right? 3 years
Hmm.
later, you have the Avengers Scrolls movie, right?
Hmm.
And then the next movie you have is X Men. You have a standalone X Men. At the end of the Scrolls movie, you have them go into this new dimension. They get dropped and they see the X Men, right? And it's like a setup. It's like, a huge Easter egg. You see Wolverine or you see something like that, right? The next
Hmm.
movie is X Men. You have an X Men movie. At the end of that movie, the world changes and all of a sudden all these people, are changed, right? They have
Hmm.
different memories. They start like attacking each other. That's how that movie ends. You have a couple more movies in between. Then you have a few more years later. You have Avengers versus X Men within the next 6 or 7 years.
Hmm.
I think that's what they do. I don't
And you're
think it'll
and
be Avengers 5 and then X Men versus Avengers right after that. I think you have an X Men movie and you have like a Wolverine movie and you
right.
have a Silk movie or whatever they
Yeah.
do with Spider Man, and then you
Oh my God.
do a versus. I'm
It's
telling you,
gonna
we
be
should
so
be the one
cool.
running this universe. Once Kevin Feige leaves, he needs to hit us up.
But I'm telling you, Brett, there's they have it planned out so well.
Hmm. Hopefully.
It's well, and I think but I mean, think about this. We're getting all of this information from
Hmm.
what they're doing.
Okay, how about this? What are the
They're
chances?
doing it.
Okay, here's another thing that I would just like to throw in there. And maybe this goes on the Disney streaming service. Maybe this doesn't go, in theaters or something like that, which I think would be a mistake. But whatever. If the Joker movie does well, the standalone Joker movie, what are the odds you think that Marvel will do standalone movies that are not part of the MCU? I'll give you
Um,
the over under 30%.
I think what we'll have is no. I don't think they'll do it. I would say under, because
Okay.
you'll always have the other companies doing them. So you
Okay.
have Sony doing them. I guess you won't have Fox anymore doing them. But you know what I mean? Like they could do that with Deadpool.
Well, Fox is still going to be. Disney's going to have R-rated brands now. Fox is the Fox Searchlight, which made stuff like Shape of Water. They're staying intact. They're just going to
Right.
be under the Disney
Right.
umbrella.
Well, what I'm saying is though is
So they
like
could, they could have Elseworld stuff, which is what I like. I like that kind of stuff.
I
You
think
have
for the
Marvel
most
one
part
shots.
we'll get that from Sony, which isn't a good thing.
Hmm.
It's so disappointing. And why does Sony have to suck ass so
Well,
much?
Sony doesn't have any other franchise. They're holding on to Spider-Man. That's their moneymaker. Paramount has the Transformers. Sony has Spider-Man. Fox had X-Men. Marvel obviously, Disney obviously has Star Wars and Marvel
And they would
and
never let
Disney.
Spider-Man go. That's what sucks.
Warner
See, the
Brothers
reason
has
why
DC.
they were able to buy Fox, because Fox is falling apart. Sony's not falling apart.
Well, see, Fox isn't as well. It's not in the company itself. Yeah, their X-Men thing I don't think was falling apart. They had one bad movie, in the
Yeah,
past like how many years? They
right.
had First Class and then Days of Future Past and then
But
you
you
had
know what?
Logan. And you had
But bring them
Deadpool.
into the MCU, and I know some people don't want it because it's like, why does it have to
You're
be
adding
all
so
in
many
order?
characters. I think if you do it the way that we're saying, I think I would like that.
You gotta add it in slowly.
Maybe
But
they
the,
do have a good idea.
but
Maybe they
they've
have a
always
way
but
to
they've
do it.
always done that. Think about it, they've always added in characters slowly.
I just think the
DC
trouble.
DC is the one that went like, okay, we're throwing everyone in.
I still would argue that it could have worked. It could have worked if they had a different
It's a
person.
whole lot, but what I'm saying is a whole
If
lot
they
more.
had a plan. If they had a
It's a
plan, it would have worked.
Yeah, but it's a whole lot
They
more
didn't.
difficult.
Hmm. I don't think it's more difficult. I think you just write a story. If it's a good story, you make it,
Yeah.
and you could have made that story good. It's
Yeah.
not too
Well,
difficult.
hopefully they're able to do it with
Well, it is
Flashpoint.
difficult. Like, all movies are difficult.
They can bring it back with Flashpoint.
Oh,
They can
here's the thing with DC. I think DC is getting back on their feet because they announced Birds of Prey has a release date now. They announced the cast, which is pretty great. They have Mary Elizabeth Winstead, which was in 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Mm-hmm.
She's playing Huntress. And then you have Margot Robbie, and you have this other actress, which I have never seen in anything.
Yeah.
But you have
They can
them as the
flip it.
three.
They can bring it back, but
But like
they need
they
they
also
need to do it
announced
through Flashpoint.
they also announced though that the Batman scripts, Matt Reeves' Batman scripts, they love it. The first draft was turned in. They're saying that they could start production mid next year.
Yeah.
So I think
But
if all goes well, they have Birds of Prey in production now. They have the Shazam. They have Aquaman. They have Wonder Woman
do you
84.
think they can bring it back without Flashpoint?
I
But
do.
they're
I don't
doing
think they have to
Flashpoint no
do it.
matter what, right?
No, because they had Flashpoint as the title for a while. Now it's just the untitled Flash movie.
Hmm.
They don't have a finalized script, but that's also not on the docket. The only movies that they have announced or has said anything about within the past few months, which is when Walter Hamada came in. I think that's or something Hamada came in to be the spearhead of DC. Ever since then, the only news we've heard was that Matt Reeves' Batman is on track. We've heard that Birds of Prey is on track. We've heard that Shazam is coming out, Aquaman is coming out, Wonder Woman is coming out. You have the Superman thing, which sucks. You have that, and that's the
Yeah,
one
you
thing
gotta
that
deal
makes
with that.
everything on edge.
Well, and that's
But
how you
everything
can
else is
fix it
on
with
track. They're in
Flashpoint.
production.
But that's how you can fix it is Flashpoint
Hmm.
because it changes.
Even the writers of the Joker and Harley movie, they said, yeah, they have a script. It's like a This Is Us meets Bad Santa, which sounds awful, but they're on track. They're not
Right.
falling apart as of right now. If you hear one
Yeah.
more bad news, then maybe I lose all of that. But I think
All right.
they might be on track.
Yeah.
Might.
We'll see. But like I said, the MCU we're gonna be seeing. It's gonna be around for
It's
a
gonna be
long
good.
time.
Yeah.
It's gonna be around for a long time.
Hopefully it
All right,
doesn't
I'm
fall
going to
apart.
bed.
Okay, hold on. I just want to say one thing before you go to bed.
Yeah.
I've been recording for an hour and 20 minutes. This is going to my channel. Great podcast.
Oh,
You're my
sweet.
first
Oh
guest.
yeah.
You're my first guest. I started kind of off and my mic was on, but I got it.
Yeah, you're gonna have to edit a bit, but all right. Well, thanks
I'll
for
edit the bit at
listening
the
or
beginning. I'm
watching,
putting this raw.
everyone.
Like, this was great. Yeah. We talked about sports analogies. We talked about the MCU a whole lot. We talked about some serious stuff with the Kaepernick stuff. We talked about MCU, DC for a minute. Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. Comment down below. What are you guys' thoughts? I
Also,
know
if you
there was
made
a
it this far, good for you.
yeah, yeah. I
Thanks.
know there was a lot in there, so
We bounced around a lot of
just
topics.
yeah. That's because I didn't know what was going. So, but yeah, comment what you guys thought was most interesting, and if you guys want us to expand on anything that you guys heard,
If you want us to like hone in
um,
on topics, like this was
yeah,
obviously we weren't planning on this. I just started recording because it sounded cool. Like this
yeah,
conversation is going somewhere. So why not?
yeah, yeah. So yeah, this that yeah, that was crazy. It's gonna be a lot of fun to see what happens, but
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
So that was the podcast. I don't know what it's called, but I will upload this before Venom
Sweet.
comes out because I said that Venom was coming out next week. So yeah, see you guys
All
in the
right,
next one. Maybe,
later.
possibly, probably. I don't know.